So when it comes to the skill tree in general, I am not going to bore you with going through everything because you probably already know the very basic of the Twisting Blades Death Trap build. I'm just going to go into specific details on stuff that I have changed and why I have changed this. And first and foremost, I'm going to start out with preparation. I really like to play with preparation because sometimes, I'm sure you had that already happen to you, and I really find it very frustrating, is when you have inner sight and it procs on your last mob of the pack, and then you're running through the next pack trying to maintain the buff, and then when you reach the next pack, the buff is already gone. So that was really frustrating to me, and I hated that when that happened. And also the inner sight mark sometimes prioritizes something else that I don't want to prioritize. For example, if you want to focus down an elite with Cold Enchanted, but the inner sight mark is on something completely different, then you will have to choose between inner sight and the safe route. And especially in hardcore, you want to run for the safe, want to target the thing that gives you the most safety. And therefore, you're kind of neglecting the inner sight by itself, which is something that I don't really want to do when playing Twisting Blades, and I find it non-optimal to skip the marked mob for safety. Therefore, preparation just feels a little bit better to me, especially because you are getting one more charge of Shadow Step, which is going to give you another Unstoppable and another way of repositioning. It's also going to reset the cooldown of everything else whenever you are using Death Trap, so also from your Poison Trap and from your dash, but most of the time that is not really that important. Way more important is that you might have 3 Shadow Steps, so 3 Unstoppables per pack that you're fighting whenever you have your Death Trap ready, so that just skyrockets the safety that the build can have. Again, especially in hardcore. In softcore, that's probably not that big of a deal, but in softcore, you can still reset your Poison Trap, which is going to be very helpful because you can press your Poison Trap, knock down everything, apply poison to everything, and then a Death Trap, and then you have your Poison Trap ready to go again for the next pack, which is coming in very handy most of the time. And another thing that is especially useful for this is you can always go back mid-fight to inner sight, which I usually do whenever I'm fighting the Butcher or the end boss of the Nightmare Dungeon. I'm always going back to inner sight, so I always swap between prep and inner sight when it comes to single target boss encounters or the Butcher, or when I'm clearing the whole map with preparation. Now, next up, let's get a little bit more in detail into the skill tree. And one thing that I see a lot of people min-maxing out is the Stutter Step. I really like to play with the Stutter Step though. The only time I see you getting rid of Stutter Step is when you are close to the movement speed cap. So when you are almost at the cap, I can see and agree with getting the point out of Stutter Step and putting the point somewhere else. But if that is not the case, I myself run always Stutter Step, and I would also recommend running Stutter Step because it just feels so incredibly smooth running from pack to pack with the increased movement speed right there. Then next up, what I see in a lot of builds, and I think it's very important, I just want to highlight the use of the methodical Shadow Step. We have been talking about, when we were talking about prep versus inner sight, we've been talking about the prioritization of a single mob. Let's say a Cold Enchanted mob, which is freezing you over and over. Or you have, for example, the Shamans in Champion's Demise that deal crazy damage. Or the Wrathful Phantoms that shoot out that red laser beam. Even on hardcore, even the little Fallen Lunatic Explodey boys. Those are all priority targets. And with Methodical Shadow Step, you can not only get directly towards them, but you can also stun them for 2 seconds. So don't throw out your Shadow Step randomly, especially if you only have 1 charge with Penitent Glyphs. And therefore, think about how you use it, and don't throw it on a random mob. If you're throwing it on a mob, ideally throw it on a priority target. This is exactly why I like to run Ravager that gives you one more charge of Shadow Step, so you can always prioritize one prior target and stun that one to make it not cast, and then have one backup Shadow Step in case something goes wrong for your Unstoppable effect. And again, with Preparation and Death Trap, you would also get another charge back, and with a lot of cooldown reduction, you don't have that much cooldown anyway. But Methodical Shadow Step, don't throw it out randomly. Think about what target you want to stun and prioritize. And again, Cold Enchanted mobs are perfect for this. Also Shamans and Champions Demise, and the Wrathful Phantoms that shoot out the red laser beam. And on hardcore, or maybe even on softcore, the Explodey Boys, stunning those is actually pretty nice and feels pretty good to have that extra safety going. Now, everything else is very standard. I didn't really change that much because most of the time is really set in stone. Most of the skills are really set in stone. The other thing that I changed from the standard build, so to say, is I get rid of 2 points in Aftermath. And prior to the Twisting Blade changes, I would have ran 2 points in Aftermath because you would have enough death traps to get a lot of resource back. But since Twisting Blades was nerfed pretty much in the beginning of Diablo 4, you have substantially less amounts of death traps. Therefore, you have substantially less amount of energy regeneration through the Aftermath passive. And that's why I took out the points in Aftermath. And maybe you already saw that I have put them into the dash tree. Now, what this enables us is that first and foremost, you have enhanced dash. So everything takes 15% increased critical strike damage for 5 seconds, which is neglectable. It's nice, but that's not the point. The point is you get a disciplined dash. And dash now slows enemies hit by 30% for 3 seconds. And if they were already slowed, they are going to be dazed for 2 seconds. Now, you have 2 charges of dash. You can throw them out every time you want because you always have, you don't have Unstoppable on dash, which is rather unfair, to be honest. The only Unstoppable that rogues have is conditional. You need a mob to get Unstoppable. If everything is dead, you can't Unstoppable. For example, during death pulls and a freeze or something, that's really unfortunate, but that's a topic for a different video. With Disciplined Dash, you can instantly refill your resource. Just pump it to full. I will have a clip showing right here where you can see this. Resource is very low here, and then you dash through a lot of mobs, applying slow to all of them. And because you have Ring of the Umbral, you restore 4 resource per enemy that you dashed through and therefore applied slow to them. And on top of that, it makes it much more safer. If you want to daze them as well, because they're casting a lot of stuff, you can just dash right back through them, dazing everything. So even if you don't have anything up, you dash into a pack, you dash out of a pack, everything is dazed already, but that's not really how you would use it. Basically, with Disciplined Dash, dash becomes a resource generation machine because you have 2 charges almost every time, especially with Preparation and Death Trap. You will have even more dashes, and this generates way more resource than you can spend with Twisting Blades. You can Twisting Blades and empty your whole resource bar, then just dash through everything, and your resource is already full again. Yeah, so we basically took the very good Aftermath, but it was nerfed with the reset, with the Twisting Blades nerf, cooldown reduction nerf, and therefore we still can generate a lot of energy, almost even more than we could before with Aftermath, with the Disciplined Dash passive. That is something that I really want to emphasize on, because that makes the build extremely smooth to play, and you will never run out of resource. It's actually not possible. Now, last point that I have here, and that is really personal preference. Let me preface this by saying exposure is definitely what you want to run all of the time, right? But there is also another option, especially when you are playing hardcore or when you are pushing high nightmare dungeons with twisting blades, which I wouldn't really recommend, but I want to also say this. You could always run momentum, because momentum is going to increase your energy regeneration by quite a lot and giving you movement speed, but that's not really the kicker here. The kicker is the 20% increased damage reduction. When I was leveling from like 90 to 100 and I wanted that 20% increased damage reduction, I went and have gotten momentum instead of the exposure. It was a little bit slower, definitely, because you weren't resetting your poison trap and your death trap as much, but it was still very much playable because you basically had infinite energy all the time because of the 30% increased energy regen. And if you would pair that up with the Ravenous aspect, you basically have a perma inner sight whenever you are killing something and have the stacks required for the momentum. It's crazy. But again, you kind of always want to run exposure because you are just that much faster. But if there is ever a point where you don't really care about being fast, but you want to be safe, momentum is definitely a viable option as well. For the Paragon tree, I'm not going to go through everything. I just want to show you guys some options. So for example, I have put 2 max life here. You can take the armor as well, or you could also go for a little bit more damage if you could get another node somewhere for the 5% all damage here. So that's not, there are a lot of options for this stuff. And everything else is kind of standard. We're playing ambush, turf, combat, exploit, and closer. So everything is going to be like this. Like it used to be with all of the other twisting blades. I optimized the pathing a little bit for most of the things. Now you could get rid of some of the armor nodes that we have right here if you're playing softcore and don't really care about those. And you could also get more of the healthy damage down here. Or you could also increase the strength that you get here on exploit, as well as the dex that you can get here on closer. And again, those 2 points in here, going from the 5% damage here to the int to the 5% damage here, is a very good upgrade for softcore, and those 2 points are very easily refundable because you just take out the 2% max life here and you take out the 50 armor here in softcore, and then you take the 5% all damage. You could also do this in hardcore if you're a very tanky character. Now for the equipment, I will have a lot of stuff already set here on the character where you can look through it. There are also alternatives that you can scroll through here in the equipment tab right here. And I just want to highlight specific things here. Whenever you have penitent Glyphs, you can change the build here with penitent Glyphs. So the only thing that is going to change is the penitent Glyphs, and in the skill tree we are obviously going to take the frigid finesse. But to get the 3 points in here, we will take out the innovation, because with this you're not really relying that much on energy regeneration from lucky hits. You will get enough energy regeneration from the penitent Glyphs plus your ring of the umbral, which is going to give you 4 primary resource whenever you are basically running around in the mobs. And you basically get 15% free damage through the frigid finesse. Not 15% overall, but you get what I'm saying. That's really important here in the equipment slot. Then I also have resource regeneration rings, which are not really necessary if you're doing the stuff with the dash that I was talking about earlier. You also, for the helms, you have some options. You have the cheat option, which I really like whenever you have your penitent Glyphs, because everything is chilled and slowed with the more points in dash, with the 2 extra points in dash down, not in the main skill, but the side skills basically. You will also slow everything, therefore you will take 25% less damage because they are also crowd controlled. So the cheats is very good. And of course, you could also run the protector, which gives you the shield, the 7.5k shield. But I would recommend running the cheat, because not only you are getting 25% taking, 25% less damage from everything that you dash through or apply the shield with the penitent Glyphs, but you are also getting 15% movement speed, which is going to be really helpful. The other thing here is that I am running Edge Masters on rings. I still run Blast Trappers on the amulet. that is definitely debatable. I suggest you try out Blast Trapper on Amulet, and then after you've gotten a little bit of a feeling for it, you could swap out Edge Master and Blast Trapper for the ring. Because if you remember, with the dash setup, you are going to have a lot of resource all of the time, therefore making Edgemaster really, really worth. You will find a link to the Max Roll Planner down in the description below, and if you have any questions to Twisting Blades Rogue in general, please let me know down in the comments below, and if you like content similar to this, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.